Dallas Mavericks moved on from Jason Kidd, and now Kyrie Irving's name's also popping up in trade rumors. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then an old faithful who pops up in trade rumors every offseason but is yet to be moved. That's Zion Williamson. Reportedly that the Pelicans are ready to run it back, with Jamahl Mosley now. What does that mean for that? Also, the Giannis trade market took another turn. We'll talk about all that, plus NBA coaching carousel, all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content. Oh, before we get into the content, though, hit that subscribe button. As you guys know, I'm going to say it every day until we reach our goal. We have a goal of getting to 10,000 subscribers, ideally before the start of the season. I know that about 65% of you guys that's been watching every day as we've been posting more often are not subscribed to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. In exchange for that, I'll be living great NBA content basically every day. So there you guys go in regards to that one. So let's get into the topics for today, man. I want to start off with the reported trade interest around Kyrie Irving, right? And what should Dallas do with Kyrie Irving? They have a chance in this draft to add a long-term pairing with Cooper Flagg. And I think that has to be the key here. When you look at teams around the league, like you have these guys, like especially in the Western Conference, right? You have, the OKC Thunder that has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Chet, a plethora of young talent down there. Now they do have some key veterans as well, like Alex Caruso, Isaiah Hartenstein, of course, right? Every young team does need its vets. But even when you look at the San Antonio Spurs as well, they got Wemby, they got Castle, they got Harper. They also have De'Aaron Fox, right? Like, so the balance between finding your long-term kind of pairing with that, having key veterans around your young players as well, is key to team building. And so the question now has become about what could the Dallas Mavericks do with Kyrie? What should they do with Kyrie Irving? Like I said, they're in a prime position to add a long-term guard to go with Cooper Flagg in this draft. And everybody kind of thinks that. They pick at number 9. They're going to have their number of picks between like Braden Berries, Darius Cuff maybe can fall that. I think now it's probably not going to fall that low. You have those guys that can also go a completely different position if they want to go like a big, which they got Derek Lively, who I don't know if he's going to be a starting caliber center every day in and day out. But, they have those things. But it's naturally now reached of what should they do with Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving, who did tear his ACL, he suffered that in March of 2025, and he's been recovering from that. This one comes out from ESPN that says this. Kid had a strong relationship with both, and Ujiri said at his May 5th news conference that he's eager as a Mavericks fan to finally see Irving play alongside Flagg. After the 9-time All-Star guard missed the entire 25-26 season in the wake of knee surgery. Yet there's anticipation league-wide that the Mavericks are likely to receive trade interest in Irving this offseason whether they want it or not, even after the 34-year-old's full season of inactivity. And the place that I sit in this, and we talked about this a little bit over on Locked On NBA as well, which I do host the daily version of Locked On NBA with Wes and Matt. But we talked a little bit on it, and my mindset was at the very minimum, and I mean at the very minimum, they should listen to offers. Because if you hear a deal that you feel like you can't pass up, there are going to be a number of teams in this draft that are going to more so covet a proven talent like Kyrie Irving, even coming off an ACL injury, than trying to, than having the runway of adding a young player, right? The Clippers are one of those teams. I don't think they're going to be looking for a guard, but reportedly they could move the number 5 pick. They can do something like that. We don't know exactly what the Atlanta Hawks, and I think they should just add another young player to that. The Golden State Warriors are another team that could do that. The Miami Heat are another team that they can go all in on the star. We know that they are looking for trade. So there are going to be some teams out there that rather than draft the pick, and this may be even lower in the first is where you may find that the bigger guys that are going to do that. If I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm definitely knocking around Kyrie Irving because we need a point guard. We have some contracts that we can move. But at the worst, the Mavericks should be listening to the offers just to see what's out there for them, right? And I think that's going to be the questions are just going to keep getting louder as the season goes on, right? So that's the thing. Explore the market. He missed an entire season. He's about to turn 34. His contract is expensive, and they're going to be resetting at some point around Flagg anyway, right? And if Masai Ujiri wants the flexibility and the assets to have a cleaner long-term roster build, you can get something back for Kyrie Irving. Now, the case of keeping Kyrie Irving, and those that don't know, we talk about both sides of every argument here. It keeps us honest here, right? Kyrie is still one of the most skilled guards in the NBA, skilled players overall in the NBA. And Cooper Flagg could benefit from a veteran shot creator to take some of the pressure off him as he develops. Same thing with any player that they draft in this draft as well, right? Dallas doesn't have to rush anything and make a franchise-altering move just because they moved off of Jason Kidd. That's not where they're at, right? They sit in a place where they can control this. And I think as well, like putting out the thought process and the mindset out in the public that you are interested in keeping Kyrie Irving anyway, it helps actually increase his value. It's funny how that works in the NBA. So when it comes down to Kyrie Irving, yes, he has a $39 million contract, a player option for 27-28 for $42 million. You know, if you can get that off the books and acquire some picks in regards to that as well, it helps you. But the benefit of the Dallas Mavericks are they're $55 million beneath the first tax apron. They have more than enough space to do what they need to do. They have a mid-level exception if they want to add further veterans, so they're not in a rush. And that's the best place to be in if you're the Dallas Mavericks. You don't have to do anything right now. Now, long-term, you kind of want to have an idea of which way you want to go with it. But if Masai Ujiri is legitimately, you know, very interested to see what it's like with Cooper Flagg playing with Kyrie before he makes a decision, he can. The question isn't really if Kyrie can still hoop. We know he can still hoop. And, you know, he's a hooper. He's going to be able to play. The question is the timeline and how much do they want to accelerate? Do they want to hold their timeline back? And that's the question when it comes down to it for the Dallas Mavericks. We'll see what the future holds for them, what they decide, the route they decide to go. We'll see how that all shakes out for this team. But let me know down below how you guys feel on it. What do you think the Dallas Mavericks should do in regards to Kyrie Irving and reportedly the trade market that could be growing for him this offseason? Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, one of the players that has often been in trade rumors, and, you know, this is because of the nature of his contract, it's also because of the state of the team in the New Orleans Pelicans, is Zion Williamson and what could possibly happen with Zion next year, right? And, you know, with now James Borrego out and Jamahl Mosley in, you know, does that mean that they are gearing up for more of a win now thing? We don't know what happens with that. But now with Mosley on board, the reported focus now is to shift focus to what they want to do with the roster, namely Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy III, Herb Jones, Jordan Poole, all of players that have been mentioned in trade rumors to some degree or another, right? Now, according to Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated, he says this: the big question moving forward in New Orleans now is, will Zion Williamson be part of this next iteration of the Pelicans team? From what I was told during this interview process with coaches, the plan is to hold on to Zion to keep him in New Orleans. He's got 2 full years left on his contract, and maybe one of those silver linings in a disappointing 25-26 season was that Zion was relatively healthy. And listen, when you look at it, Zion last season played 62 games, the second most of his young NBA career. He averaged 21 points, 5.7 rebounds, 3.2 assists, and 1 steal per game. So with that said, you know, you when having a guy like Williamson on your roster, especially with a guy like Mosley coming in, you know, you may want to take some time to evaluate that. And is that the right decision, though? And that's where it comes down to. Like, let's talk about both sides of this argument. The side to keep Zion, he's 25 years old. And when he's on the court, he's a damn good player. There's just no doubt about that. He's a true force of nature when he's on the court, right? And Jamahl Mosley could very well want a go-to star with this system to try to build around. Let's talk about the other side of why to move on. Zion's health questions, it's not going to get any better. Right now, let me not say that. That's not fair to say after he played the most games of his career, the second most games of his career. But at the same time, like, the injury, it's not like the injury concerns completely went away. He's still going to have injury concerns. There's also some fit concerns. Now, you know, the Derek Queen trade, for what it was, they went out and got Derek Queen. They gave up a pick. That's one of the best picks in this deep draft. But they got Derek Queen. Darren Queen had his moments last year. But I do think one of the things that showed out last year is that Queen and Zion don't really look good on the court together. Now, could that change? Yeah, it could change. You know, teams can look at it and maybe Jamahl Mosley has a plan for that. Maybe he has a plan on how to get the most out of those two players when they're on the court together. And if he does, great, right? Because it can help, you know, accelerate that. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't look like the most seamless fit that you're going to be able to figure out Zion Williamson and Derek Queen playing together. And it's not just a little bit. They played 711 minutes together last year. In that time, the Pelicans were -170 with a -11.3 net rating in that time, a defensive rating of 123. Keep in mind, defensive rating, the lower number is the better number. 123 is terrible. An offensive rating of 112, which isn't absolutely terrible, but not great either, right? So, the minutes of Queen and Zion Williamson together just don't look good, and it doesn't look like something that they're going to be able to work out. So if you really think that when you have a future answer in Derek Queen, then that may lead it to that point well, right? And so if his injury concerns return, the value is going to dip, right? So I think right now the way is the Pelicans are betting on the idea of what the healthiest version of Zion could be. But I also think you have to weigh that against what the best trade package is and how much that can get affected if and when Zion Williamson has another major injury. And that's what they have to ask themselves. So I guess we'll see. But I would not be surprised if this offseason more Zion Williamson trade rumors do pop up. We've also heard that, that they do want to be aggressive about going out there and trying to find another pick in this draft. That can only be done by trading some players, not necessarily Zion. But they got some roster decisions that they need to make there. And the Pelicans, for what it's worth, even though a team that hasn't won a lot of games, 26 games last year, they got some talent on their roster. DeJounte Murray is still a player that you can flip, that maybe teams that want to win now can take a look at. He came back healthy last season and looked decent when he did play. 16 points per game, 5.4 rebounds, 6.4 assists, 48% shooting from the field. DeJounte Murray is still a good player. Does he fit your future? If not, you have to ask your questions there. Now, he only played 14 games, so there's that part of it, right? But the Pelicans have that. They have DeJounte, they have Herb, they have Trey, they have these players. They need to figure out what the hell they're going to do with and how it plays all into the future, but we'll see. All right, let's get in from Zion to another player that is so often mentioned in regards to trade talk, and that's Giannis, right? And here's the thing. I'm so tired of Giannis Antetokounmpo rumors, but I have to cover them here because it does, the reason why that I have to cover something, even though I'm kind of tired of talking about it at times, is because if Giannis is moved, it is a shift in the NBA, no doubt about it, right? There's just no doubt about that if it happens, right? And so now, with that said, there is some talk of course, what does it look like for Giannis to be moved? And that's the question that has to come down with this one. With now, trade suitors reportedly are looking at whether they want to go youth movement or they want to take a shot at Giannis Antetokounmpo. And that's a fair estimation and a question to make there, right? He's going to turn 32 over the course of the next season. And while that is in no way old in real life, that's when the reality of basketball starts catching up to you. He's been often injured. These things have happened. We know that the Bucks have held him out when it comes down to it. But here's the thing, right? The question doesn't seem like it's about as much if Giannis is going to be moved. It's how much these teams are willing to mortgage their future to get Giannis. And that's the question here, right? And I think this, right? The side when you talk about teams that want to trade for Giannis, why would they still trade for Giannis? He's still a top star in this league, period. He's a top star in this league. He's one of the best two-way players in the game of basketball, and that players like that don't become available very often, right? And I do think that a Giannis Antetokounmpo acquisition for the right team can turn your team into a title threat. That's the reality of it. But why teams still have to be careful here is that, A, young teams are winning faster than ever. The Detroit Pistons fizzled out in the second round of the playoffs after being the best team in the Eastern Conference, having one of the best net ratings in basketball. But you look at a team like the San Antonio Spurs, that is a young team that is showing and proving that you can't just count out a young team because of youth. Hell, the OKC Thunder, defending champions, are still a relatively young team, right? So giving up picks and prospects for a 32-year-old player who is starting to get more injured and stuff like that, it becomes a risky proposition. And then you look at the new CBA, right, or the new tanking rules that are there to be there and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting how this all plays a part into making a trade that's as large as a Giannis Antetokounmpo trade would naturally need to be. I think that the point in this one is just simply this. Giannis is Giannis. And for a league that's telling teams that going young, deep, and flexible may be more valuable than trading for a star in the long run, you got to ask which teams are going to have that and look at it that way. And I guess we shall see how teams view that. But let me know what you guys think down below. Lastly, the Dallas Mavericks moved on from Jason Kidd yesterday. I started to drop a breaking news video on that, but it kind of was expected, right? But now the Dallas is facing a place where they need to find the right coach, namely for Cooper Flagg, right? And so there reportedly are two major candidates for that. That's Sean Sweeney, who's currently the lead assistant with the San Antonio Spurs, and Micah Nori, who is a assistant with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, Micah Nori's been around the league for like 20 plus years. He's been an assistant for 20 plus years. This would very much be him finally getting over that hump and getting a head coaching role. Sean Sweeney is looked at as one of the more young, develop-minded coaches. He is defensive-minded, but he's young, creative. He knows how to develop. He knows how to bond with players, those type of things, right? And reportedly, Sean Sweeney's been in Dallas before, so he knows the Mavericks system. He knows the personnel there. He worked there under Jason Kidd, and it could be a coming home of sorts for Sweeney. And Micah Nori has a relationship and ties to Masai Ujiri and has, of course, the respect lead wide as well. The next coach's job is to develop Cooper Flagg and any other young players. The player they get with the number 9 pick in this draft, what they do with this draft, that's the role of this next head coach. So this isn't just about X's and O's. It's about who can also help set the tone and define the next era of what Dallas Mavericks basketball is going to be. And that's why they have to be very, intentional with this hire. Now, I think Sean Sweeney and Micah Nori are both really good options here. I really do think that. The question becomes about, is that the job that he's going to take? Because Sean Sweeney reportedly is going to interview for the Bulls job. He could be a finalist for the Mavericks job as well. The coaching carousel is really starting now, and we're going to see how it all shakes out, which leads us to the next topic, and that's the Orlando Magic and their coaching search, right? Apparently that this is what they're looking at. The 3 best guys for this one is Sean Sweeney, who we just talked about, Jeff Van Gundy, surprisingly enough, who's an assistant right now, and Billy Donovan. I think when you look at it like this, Orlando is trying to get over the hump. And which coach do they feel like can get them there? Billy Donovan, of course, is an NBA experienced coach. He's a Hall of Famer, more so for his college career than his NBA career. But he did coach that Thunder team. And so, I think he's familiar with young players and playoff expectations, and he wants that after being with Chicago for so long. Jeff Van Gundy would instantly bring defensive identity, a veteran coach presence, and could bring structure to a team that's ready to win now. And the same thing that we said about Sean Sweeney, a rising assistant, modern coaching profile, and could help grow and further develop the young core that the Orlando Magic have here. The Magic cannot afford to waste this. And that's the biggest thing here. You have to get this right. This roster has too much talent on it for it to stall growth, not getting the right coach. And that's why Jamahl Mosley was fired. So we'll see what happens here, but the NBA coaching carousel is going to be one to watch this offseason because there's going to be a lot of first-time coaches that get an opportunity or at least interviews, and we got to see how that's going to work. But that's going to do it for today's episode of NBA Central. The offseason is already setting up to be a wild one. We got some great playoff games going on as well. I think that this series with the Spurs and the Thunder could be one of the best playoff series that we've had in years when it comes down to it. So drop your thoughts down in the comments on all the topics down below. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball and NBA related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Breaks Media.